Welcome to the Breakthrough Advisor Podcast. In this podcast, we inspire advisors with ideas and pathways to break through barriers and build a thriving retirement income business. We will interview innovative technology developers, business leaders, and successful advisors, then help you organize and execute these ideas to move your business forward.
Hey folks, this is Jack Martin. I'm the virtual CMO for InsureMark. I want to welcome you to the Breakthrough Advisor podcast today. This is where our leading advisors are coming to learn from industry and thought leaders like our guest, Dr. Kevin Elko, about what they can do to level up their businesses in 2024. I couldn't be more excited to have Dr. Elko here today. He's coached the coaches and the players at national championship teams like Alabama. He's coached industry leaders in our space in financial services and insurance. You know him. You've probably heard him before. Dr. Elko, welcome to the Breakthrough Advisor podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, if there are a couple people who are listening who maybe haven't heard you or listened to you before, tell us a little bit about your background.
I graduated from West Virginia and got my doctorate there, went to Olympic Committee, went to International Olympic Committee in Greece, and came back and worked for the Steelers. And I've been since working with a number of different teams. I've been working with Alabama, worked with the Eagles, worked with when they won it, worked with the Packers, worked with the Steelers. And I work a lot in our industry, doing a study on the mental makeup of the very best in our industry, and did a study with that over the years. So we'll just look at the mental makeup of champions.
That's a lot. Hey, you're going to be joining us in Nashville at the Founders Club Experience, and we're going to be talking there about how to get wired for success. And one of the things we hear from our advisors is, hey, this is all great. This is excellent information, but how do I apply this? How does our sales team talk to advisors about how to take it off the drawing board and put it into action? What's the conversation that advisors should be having with himself, or that our sales team should be having with that advisor, about how to really implement what they learn at the Founders Club Experience?
For years, they've talked about something called IQ. And of course, that was intelligent quotient. And what they were really studying and measuring in those days was people's ability to do math and computation. Came out, one of the people that pushed it forward the most was this phrase of emotional intelligence. Came out with Daniel Goleman. He was pushing that real strong. And they found out the original IQ really didn't correlate with much. It correlated with your ability to do math, but not success, not happy, not grit, not resiliency, just your ability to do math. At one time, they thought, well, if you could solve math, you could solve problems in the world. But as you said, it wasn't applied. So Goleman came out with this deal, social or emotional intelligence, your ability to talk, your ability to listen, your ability to connect, your ability to think. And that went for a while. About maybe just a week or two ago, they came out with a whole nother IQ in one article in the Wall Street Journal called transformational. It's different. And what they're saying is the world's changing so fast, like what we just had with Saban at Alabama. And I'm guessing that change eventually caught Mike Krzyzewski at Duke because he left the industry. It caught Jay Wright at Villanova. He left the industry. It got Roy Williams in North Carolina. He left the industry with NIL and different things. Well, finally, got Nick Saban. And the phrase is the future's not what it used to be. So transformational IQ is something very different. It's your ability to handle change. And the challenge that we get is we think we come to these conferences and we love inspirational speakers because we think we're going to get inspired to do it. Well, change and motivation and grit and resiliency, all of that is a skill. I play guitar. I didn't declare I'm a guitar player and then sit down and able to rip off 5 or 6 chords. I first decided what was the map, and I practiced it until it became second nature, or I was wired to do it. I will not say I'm a great golfer. Golfing is a skill, which is incidentally a skill I don't even want to try to attempt because I need something else to get frustrated with. But you don't say, here I go, and now I can golf. So if I want these things, I'll go to conferences like the ones we're having in Nashville. And inspiration, it's for amateurs. You wire you with it. Now, unfortunately, people are wired with comfort and complaining and offended because they've practiced it so many times. It's stored in the same place that brushing their teeth is stored. Unless you're from West Virginia, I don't know if it's stored in there. So you get to a point where you have to go, I have to wire it by repetition. And so you give them a model to do it. And so they have to think it and rethink it till they're wired with it. Neurons, the phrase they use is neurons that fire together, wire together. So you can't just come out and say, I'm inspired for it. And we pay those speakers, honestly, huge money because they have an inspirational story. And then we'll get somebody new for the next inspirational story, the next conference, the next book. That's all wonderful. But there's no evidence that says that's going to make you adhere to change. You've got to get it down at the wired level. So the big thing right now is not IQ. I'm not even sure it's emotional IQ. That's almost yesteryear. The phrase now, I just got off the phone with somebody who has a construction company in tears, because it's coming to an end. And he's got to either go to the Suns or sell it. I do it every day in the industry. Markets have changed. Products have changed. Clients have changed. Age groups we're marketing to change. And I could talk about the philosophy of it. But if you don't have the IQ of it, IQ stands for anytime I have an intelligence, I looked up the definition, is to be able to acquire and use a skill. You better be able to do that today. And so we have all the market leaders and people coming into Nashville that are top in the industry. They don't have transformational IQ. They're not staying there. They're not staying there long because it's going to change. And so you've got to get into those things that make the change.
There's a lot there to unpack. So when you talk about, I hear some of the self-talk in there. I mean, since caveman days, we've been wired, to protect ourselves, keep the status quo, don't change, something bad can happen. And so now we fast forward to 2024 and, the world has transformed with Amazon, Netflix, DoorDash, the way consumers look at advisors, what they expect from advisors, the level of intelligence, the ability of consumers to get information, that's all changed. But in the back of our heads, we're still saying, "Hey, be careful! Don't go too far outside of the cave. You're going to get bitten or eaten or something like that." So, what should advisors? What's the process for them? I mean, where do they start in this?
You have to declare first. The first step's a declaration. Carried me out of my house through those doors right there, and then put me in the ambulance. So I keep in front of me my son's face when they carried me out. So I declared I got to become different. I'm going to be back in that ambulance. So like I'm a vegan now, I had to change. But I had to rewire my diet. I meditate 3 times a day. I had to rewire that. And I had to rewire basically the way I do. I always exercise, had to do it different. But we're wired to be comfortable. So you have to first make a declaration. You don't say, I'm going to learn how to change. You got to say, that's my culture now. That's part. You don't say, we deal with change. You got to say, we are change. You have to declare that. And then it has to in some way get personal. Then the next step is you have to Bluetooth your thoughts.
I'm sorry, say again?
You have to Bluetooth your thoughts.
That's a power phrase.
Bluetooth, you're on some sort of a Bluetooth, it looks like right now, right?
Right.
So there's something being piped into those headphones. What if we put a Bluetooth on your head and it went through the speakers in that room? You first have to go, what am I saying? And that's the genesis. And you have to stop and say, what kind of things? You have to become conscious. What am I saying to myself? So I'm talking to a man in the investment industry who's 69 and he's got to go through succession. What do I do next? What's stuff he's saying to me? What do I do next? What do I do? Just golf the whole time? Then he lays this one on me. Death is coming. Death is coming. Did you get a bad diagnosis? So I'm listening to him talk and realize when he started Bluetoothing out loud to me, the stuff coming out had him locked in. He wasn't going to change. So I can give you anything inspirational, but it's higher consciousness. What am I Bluetoothing? What am I saying? Now you're riding down the road and you got the radio on and you now hear what it's saying, like, because you turned it up. That's your Bluetooth. And you don't like what it's playing. What do you do? I'm asking you, what do you do?
Change the channel.
Period. You hit the whole thing. You first Bluetooth and change the channel. And you have to ask yourself, does this work? Does this work? Death is coming. I don't want to let this go. What's going to be my purpose? And really the Bluetooth, I don't want to get real deep into it because we're going to cover it in Nashville. I don't want to do my whole seminar. Like, I don't want to do the whole one here. I just want to kind of open it up some. But it comes down to one word, really. Should. I shouldn't be going through this. This shouldn't be happening. It should be my way. This should be easy. And I say, look, stop shooting on yourself. You got to turn that channel. It's not working. And so it starts with the Bluetooth. And you have to realize that, as you said earlier, those thoughts are wired. So you have to be comfortable and know that they're in there wired pretty tight. You don't inspire the house, you wire it. So first you listen to it, and then you have to do it all over again. You have to rewire it by talking to you over and over and over. So the first thing you've got to do is these workshops and seminars are not going deep enough. And you don't want it to be therapy, but you've got to Bluetooth the head. So I'm going in to do a succession planning with construction company in Huntsville on Wednesday. And I'm bringing the whole group in, family, and we're going to say, okay, let's first Bluetooth collectively our thoughts. Let's move to a new language, a new radio station that we can move on and do this with success. What kind of things are we saying? What do we say different? So you listen, you Bluetooth, and you change the thoughts, and then you repeat them over and over and over until you're wired with them. You have a new tape. And so that's where it has to go. And it's going to keep changing. And it's going to change nonstop. And if you don't get it on the table, you're going to blow kind of in a way Saban blew. You're going to find it's okay, that's it. And it just blows. And then 1 minute you make a decision. It's probably sitting there all along, but it's just how abrupt you make it. So you have to keep on setting it on the table. So you can first Bluetooth it and then change it. But it's really, you're not going to have a rich life with poverty thoughts, abundant life with scarcity thoughts, sitting with these safe thoughts. Just not going to do it. That's where it's got to go. Got to start there.
So in Nashville, we're going to have our best of the best. So these are guys who are having a high level of success. So maybe at a deep level, they have some discomfort, but really in their day to day, they're probably feeling pretty successful. Like they've really got game and things are going. So what's the thought for them to get them to change the channel if they're already being relatively successful?
I like 90. We did research, and the research found out that every 90 days they're setting new goals, new vision. It's just changing. So what we're finding is every 90 days they're doing goals and sharing with their team. And then it's nitty gritty goals. It's the daily activity of is what they're doing. And what they're doing is they're comfortable being uncomfortable. But we then did a subsequent study, the top 15 teams in the country, not the individuals, teams on Wall Street. They were very outward focused. They were very giving. Some of them didn't even take a paycheck. They were very connected. They had a way that they did less, but they would obsess. They were at a point where they were able to keep growing, go to the next level. They were very, very service-oriented. The stuff they did was not transactional. And so what I tell people is every 90 days, you set up a new set of a vision, and you get your people in on ownership of the vision. And we did a study 25 years ago with Barron's. And Barron's identified the top 250 financial advisors in the country. And the average age 25 years ago was 37. We did it again 25 years later, and with Forbes, and it was 62, was the same person. And so you're not changing them. They're already wired for it, but you're changing do less but assess, pull people in on it, pull people in on the whole connection of it, pull people in being involved with everybody has ownership in what they're doing. And then you get very, very resilient, and the connection piece is big, learning how to connect. And so I think you just keep on going to the next level and saying we're going to keep growing, have a growth mentality, and keep on, they call it flipping the business. They flip how they do it. They will stand back and just flip everything, say, okay, that's how we did it, but now we're going to flip it and do it completely different. Nick Sirianni from the Eagles called me and said, I want you to talk about the Fosbury flop. And I go, okay, the Fosbury flop, everybody was doing the high jump a certain way. And he changed it, this guy Fosbury, so I'm going to do completely different, even though it's working. And he set a new standard. So the great ones were Fosbury flop. We were doing it this way, but now we're going to do it that way. And they aren't, as you talk about change, they're not the ones dealing with change. They're the ones that are using their instincts to set the change. And when I speak in Nashville, I'll talk about a group called the Mokans. But they look at what they see instinctively and they get out in front of it.
So in your experience with Alabama and Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, I mean, these are teams that have won Super Bowls and national championships. So what is it that they think about differently that causes them to repeat? You know, there's this whole thing about, you know, Super Bowl champions not repeating, AFC champions not repeating, that sort of thing, the challenges that go into that. So what do you think is happening there? I mean, Saban did an amazing thing. I mean, it's really unprecedented, the number of national championships that he accumulated in such a short period of time. So there must be something there, something in the water that's causing them to say, I'm hungry. Maybe it is this thing you just said, I am the change. I'm going to do it differently. I'm going to go back to back. What's happening there?
Really, it starts with a standard. The standard's wired. Again, I don't want to blow my whole talk in Nashville.
No. I don't want you to.
I know. I don't want to blow the whole talk in Nashville. That was one of my concerns here. So I just want to dip onto some of it. But it's a standard. And they set it, and it's wired, and they don't go below it. For Saban, when we didn't have good years, it was the standard. It was relentless. That's all there was. And it was blocking and tackling. And the word means go back. Lent is not a Christian term. It's actually a pagan term, which means a period of time where we're giving something up. It's totally different. It's totally, totally different. Less, we don't have it. We don't know how to give up. Relentless. For the Eagles, it was ownership. That's all we talked about. We really just talked about ownership of the whole team. I was talking to Doug Peterson this year. Ownership involved, they kept each other accountable. I was talking to Doug Peterson, and I said to him, Doug, you kind of lost your faith in the team. He said, yeah, I did. And it was just situational. So there it was, and at the end when we won it with the Eagles, it was this bold faith. Just bold faith. Last year with Alabama, it was, there's something to, it was lank, let all naysayers know. And I've seen it over and over and over, where good is what you're talking about. I've got goals. Good is I've got a vision. Good is I believe in me. Personal's different. Working with somebody and he was real young, and he was a real strong financial advisor in Boston. He's 28. So I go to him and said, "How are you so good?" And he said, "My mother went to work as a financial advisor." No, I went to work as a financial advisor. Before I did, my mother was a single parent, put me and my two sisters through Boston University. Single parent, double shifts. He said, 2 days before I graduated, my mother died of a stroke. Every one of my clients is my mother. Good is all what we're talking about. I see me successful. I have a vision. I have a goal. But great's different. Great, that's personal. That's personal. You don't take people personal. You know, the Bible said in the last days more people be offended than any other time. That's taking people personal. But when you can find some reason to take your work personal, that's different. So Saban would always find a way, and the players would always find a way. The great ones, it's personal. This performance is personal. People aren't, but this performance is. Francis Perkins. Again, I'm not going to go much further because I don't want to get into my topic.
We're about out of time.
Yeah. But let me show you this. Francis Perkins was a nanny in New York City, and she looked and saw a sewing factory on fire. This is great. And she watched women burn to death. She was a nanny. Graduated from Mount Holyoke. She went to Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Some would be your Secretary of Labor. What's your resume? I'm a nanny. Do you understand, Francis? No woman's ever been in a presidential cabinet. Yeah, but I'm going to be. I saw women burn to death. She went from a nanny to Secretary of Labor, going to companies tell them clean everything up, and wrote the Social Security Act. That was personal. Good's one thing. Naturally, you have good. Great's always personal.
Well, always personal. I don't know where we go from there, except to say thank you very much. Hey, folks, if you're listening to this and directionally you aren't feeling a change, hit the replay button. This has been a powerful session. Dr. Elko, thank you very much. Anything you want to say in closing?
No, I mean, I want us to come, if you can, come to Nashville. We'll go into it further and we'll go deeper into it. But the whole idea, you did a great job. I see what you're doing now. But it really comes down to, if you want to be great, good's one thing. And I understand the good, the great thing. Good is the enemy of great. I disagree. Great, the enemy of great is realistic. This is personal. I'm not going to be realistic. I'm going to do something in my life that's unrealistic. That's what we're going to talk about.
That's awesome. Hey, folks, you've been listening to the Breakthrough Advisor podcast. On behalf of InsureMark, this is Jack Martin, the virtual CMO. I want to thank you very much for taking time out of your busy schedules to join us. Please like, share, comment, subscribe to this podcast, pass along to your friends, reach out to InsureMark, one of our advisor development consultants, to learn how you could be in Nashville or how you can be part of the Founders Club and the Founders Club experiences in the future. Thank you very much. Have a great day. Thank you very much, Dr. Elko.
Thank you for listening to the Breakthrough Advisor podcast. Click the subscribe button below to be notified when new episodes become available. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of InsureMark. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only.